Hi everybody, so glad you could join us here for Weather School for Kids on my back porch. I'm meteorologist Lisa Spencer and I have a fun lesson for you today. Before we get started though, let me get a drink of water. That is so refreshing. Oh, I think my plant needs a drink of water too. There we go. Oh, my plant is so thankful. Do you ever wonder where the water that we drink comes from? Or maybe where the rainwater that we normally would water our plants with, where it comes from? Well, let's talk about that. Today's weather lesson is on the water cycle. And if you ever thought about what cycle means, what's a word that sounds similar to cycle? How about circle? Something that's in a circle never really has an end, does it? It just goes around and around and around, like the wheels on a bus. Remember that song? The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all through the town. That's exactly like the water cycle. It just goes around and around and around. You can actually start anywhere in this circle and it just keep going on and on and on. So let's start with the sun. I have a really big sun today. Oh yes, my smiley face sun. So it comes out and it heats up the earth, our blue ball. And imagine, if you will, there are rivers and lakes and oceans right here on our earth, like the Cumberland River and like Percy Priest Lake and Old Hickory Lake right here in Middle Tennessee. So the sun heats up the water in those lakes. And what happens after that? Let's take a look. That's when evaporation occurs. And that is when we turn the liquid water into a gas. That's evaporation. That rises, and when that evaporation, that moisture rises, it cools and it condenses. So that's when we turn that gas back into a liquid, and water droplets form clouds. And all of those water droplets collect together and they bump into each other and they grow a little bit. And then the cloud gets so heavy that it starts to rain. So here's something you can try at home. If you have a sponge, or even if you just have a cotton ball, and this probably works better if you have a little water droplet, or a water dropper, I should say. But we'll just put a little bit of water on here and see if we can get our cloud to get really good and saturated. Oh, it's getting saturated. See how it's starting to drip? Now that we've got more and more water. That's what happens in a real cloud. And if I squeeze it a little bit, it really starts to drip. So when you see clouds in the sky, and the darker they get, they have more and more water droplets in them, and they will eventually start to rain. And that's where precipitation comes from, those clouds. After that, the rain comes down, or it might be snow, precipitation, and it has to go somewhere. So it will sometimes be in our plants because they drink it, or it might collect in a river or any kind of body of water. Some of it soaks down into the ground and makes groundwater. And then it starts all over again with evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. So here's a look at some pictures. Here is where we have evaporation taking place. You can see the steam on top of this house. And then we have condensation with the clouds forming, and some of those look a little darker, don't they? We actually can take a look at another thing, but I have to bring you inside for this. And I hope we've given it enough time. Let's go check. Oh, remember I said the sun heats up the water? Well, we kind of simulated that by letting here on the stove, the heat from the stove heat up the water. Can you see that vapor? I hope you can. I know it might be a little difficult to see, but if you want to try this experiment at home, get mom or dad to help you with it. But you will see coming up a little bit of steam out of that pot. It is easier to see in person as opposed to being on the video. But come back out here. We have some more fun things for you. So we've got the cloud forming. The cloud gets so heavy with water droplets that precipitation occurs. And you know that can be rain, like we had earlier this week, or it can be snowfall, like you see here. I love this picture. This is my family when we were at Glacier National Park many years ago, but it has all of the collection right here for us to see. There are plants, there's a lake, there are glaciers, and there's also some snow up on some of the mountains. So that's a great shot of how we see that collection of that precipitation. So let's see if we can measure how much rain we get. This is where you can have a fun activity, and you can do this every day. Let's take a look first off at this. This is just a regular rain gauge that I purchased. And I usually stick this in my pot, kind of like that, that's outside, and I can go out and see how much rain that I have. Well, if you don't have one like this, that's okay. You can make your own. What I did is I took a regular 2-liter bottle and I cut it in half. Now, if we want to sit this outside, we don't want it to move around, so we can put some rocks in here. Just put a few rocks in the bottom. It'll weight it down. And then we put this part on top, and just to make it more secure, you can use some tape. Duct tape will work. That's what I have. Put it around like this. This is so easy to make, as you can see. You can make yours prettier and decorate it if you want to. And then you could take just let's turn it this side, just a ruler and make you some little marks. Now what you'll want to do is start it above where your weight is in the bottom. So I'm going to take a marker. And I tell you what, we might have to set this down on the table so you can see. So I would take some marks like this, and then I could label it with the different numbers. So I could say 1 and 2 and 3, and then you could even make the in-between numbers as well, so you can get a little more accurate. But here's another way. If you don't have a plastic bottle, maybe you might have some of these supplies at home. You could take just a regular jar, and I happen to have a really short little ruler here. This one is 6 inches long, and this would be your way of measuring. So you could tape your ruler, and you can do it a little neater than what I'm going to do, but you could take your ruler like that, and remember you're going to set it outside. So you could take a piece of wood and glue it, put glue on the bottom, and then you could press it down on that wood and set it outside, and you can measure the rain like that. Now there are some sheets online that you could print off, so you could make a record, a nice record of how much it rains every day, or even if it doesn't rain, then you could put a dash or a 0. But I didn't have one of those sheets, so what I did is I made my own. You can see that I drew some lines off with the ruler and put the days of the week, and then here I made all these different columns because I'm going to measure the rain every day. And you can really have some fun with math, and you could make a graph sheet like this one, and you could chart and see how it rained outside over the next few days and few weeks, and just keep up with how much rain that you had. So those are some ideas for you, but I also have another idea for you. And let me see if I can spell it for you out here. You could be a weather observer with CocoRoz. And CocoRoz has a website, and you can go to that website, and if you just Google it, you'll find it. You can go to that website and you can sign up to be a weather observer. We use that information every day at Channel 4. The National Weather Service uses that information as well. Now you will have to buy a special rain gauge to do it, but if you're a little older, that could be a really fun thing for you to do. Even adults can do it too. But check out CocoRoz. It's a great way to measure the rain at your house, and it's also helpful for everybody else. Well, that's today's weather lesson on the water cycle. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, you can type them right there on our Facebook page, or you can always email me at lspencer@wsmv.com. Be sure and join us again tomorrow for another weather lesson right here at WSMV.com and our Facebook page.